Hi everyone, let us take a deep dive into Fourier series by looking at the equations describing the three different forms of Fourier series. Fourier series says that x of t periodic can be represented as infinite sum of cosines. Infinite sum of cosines. What I've shown you is the compact Fourier series form where I added the cosines from 1 to infinity and I changed the amplitude Cn and I changed the phase shift minus theta n. I want to show you that the other forms, the trigonometric form and the complex exponential form, mean the same thing. They are saying you can represent periodic signal x of t as infinite sum of cosines. By the way, later on we'll call alpha n, an, bn, cn, theta n, those constants that we need to evaluate are called Fourier series coefficients. And we will learn the correct way of calculating those coefficients. Also notice that the fundamental frequency omega naught 2 pi over t naught is the same for all the equations. So let me try to go from this form, the compact form, into the trigonometric Fourier series form. What the different equations are telling you that if you have x of t periodic, you can either represent it as infinite sum from 1 to infinity of a single cosine with an amplitude and a phase shift, c and the amplitude minus theta n is the phase shift, or equivalently you could use a cosine without phase shift and a sine without phase shift. So long as you use a certain amplitude for the cosine, I'll call it an, and a certain amplitude for the sine, I'm going to call it bn. How did I move from this form to this form? Notice the DC did not change, c naught over 2, a naught over 2. The sum did not change and equal 1 to infinity and equal 1 to infinity. What I did is use a very popular trigonometric identity that you are familiar with, which says if you have a cosine of something multiplied by amplitude a plus sign of the same thing beta, notice same thing, multiplied by a constant, and you add those together, you're getting a cosine of that same thing but with an amplitude and phase shift. This is a very popular trigonometric identity that you can easily look up, and that's what I used here. I converted the Cn cosine and omega naught t minus theta and this term here inside the sum into a cosine plus sine. Just like I did here, I went from the cosine with the amplitude and phase shift into the cosine plus sine, so long as I choose different amplitude here and different amplitude here. If I have C here, I'm going to use A and B here. That's why C and cosine and omega naught t minus theta n, that's my phase shift, is converted into A and cosine and omega naught t, there is no phase shift here, plus B and sine and omega naught t, there is no phase shift here. And from your understanding of this trigonometric identity, you can quickly calculate an and bn in terms of cn and theta n, or the other way around, you can calculate cn from knowledge of an and bn and also theta n. The equations are cn is equal to an square plus bn square under the square root, and this applies for all the harmonics. On the other hand, if you want to calculate theta n, it's tan inverse bn over an. Very familiar equations, please memorize them. They link the compact form with the trigonometric form. It's called trigonometric form because I use the trigonometric functions cosine and sine. However, please understand that I don't have anything here called b0. It's not defined here, b0, so I mean it's 0. If you put 0 here, what you're getting is a0 squared plus 0 under the square root. That's c0, so c0 is the same as a0. If you find this confusing, just look at this equation. A naught over 2 is the same as c naught over 2. So in terms of the zeroth coefficient, c0, it's the same as a0. And you'll see later on, we'll call c0 over 2 the DC value, or the average value, and a0 over 2 is also the average value or the DC value. So this is how you find Cn from an and bn, and theta n from an and bn. What if you already have Cn and theta n? Could you go back to an and bn? Yes, of course, we know the details of this trigonometric identity. So the answer is you take the compact form amplitude Cn and you multiply it by cosine the phase shift theta n, you're getting An. That's the trigonometric form here. If you take the amplitude and you multiply it by sine theta n, what you're getting is the Bn coefficient, which is multiplied by sine. And this applies for all the harmonics. Please notice the exception here. We don't have a theta 0 here because theta n starts at n equal 1, which means I want you to say cosine 0 radian or cosine 0 degrees, and that gives you C0 equal A0. C0 is equal A0. Again, if you find this confusing, just look at this equation. C0 over 2 is the same as A0 over 2, so A naught and C naught are exactly the same. And I hope that those equations are very easy to memorize, very easy to remember, because you have already seen them in other topics, like when we talked about complex numbers and we converted complex numbers from rectangular form to polar form or from polar form to rectangular form. You've seen similar equations. When you dealt with vectors, they are similar equations to the trigonometric identities. I know we are talking about different topics here, but the nice thing is that they have similar equations. Once you memorize the equation, it shows up in different contexts. It makes it easier to remember. What about the exponential form? A lot of newcomers have a problem with the exponential. They look at it and say, wait a second, I'm convinced about this. This is infinite sum of sinusoidal signals. I'm fine with that. But this is exponential to the j. This is not sinusoidal. And I say to students, well, please remember Euler's identity. It says if you have e to j something, that's actually cosine and sine. Because from Euler's identity, e to j beta is cosine beta plus j sine beta. So actually using the complex exponential gives you sinusoidal signals. If you use this formula and you just want to know what is the cosine beta is e to j beta plus e to minus j beta over 2. So two complex exponentials, one with the positive j here, one with the negative j here. Once you add the positive and the negative, you're getting the cosine. This is a complex signal, does not exist in real life. This is a complex signal, does not exist in real life. But once you combine them, you're getting cosine beta because of this Euler's identity. A similar thing can be said about the sine beta. It's e to j beta, but this time minus e to minus j beta divided by 2j. Let me use this fact, cosine is the addition of two exponentials, one positive, one negative, to show you that the infinite sum of those cosines is the same as infinite sum of complex exponentials. I know we start here at 1 to infinity, but you'll see here I need to start at minus infinity to infinity because I have two exponentials. One positive where I'll get 1 to infinity, another negative where I'll get minus 1 to minus infinity. And combining those two, the negative exponentials and the positive exponentials, will give me the final cosine, where I have cosines from 1 to infinity. So let's do the math. I'll start with the compact form. The compact form says, take the DC value, C0 over 2, plus add up all the cosines from 1 to infinity with a certain amplitudes, Cn, and certain phase shifts. This cosine can be written as two exponentials, as I've shown you a minute ago, where I have the first exponential positive, and you copy paste whatever inside the cosine, the argument of the cosine, which is n omega naught t minus theta n. So e to j, this thing here, plus e to minus j, this time negative, of that thing here, n omega naught t minus theta n. And after you add the two exponentials, the positive complex exponential and the negative complex exponential, divide by 2, you're getting the cosine. Of course, the cosine is multiplied by Cn, so I multiplied by Cn here and I multiplied by Cn here. Nothing changed. This is the same equation. But instead of the cosine, I have two complex exponentials. Now let me split this sum over those two terms. So I have a sum of this term here plus a sum of this term here. I have a sum of Cn e to j n omega naught t minus theta n divided by 2, see here. And then I have another sum from n equal 1 to infinity of Cn e to minus j n omega naught t, that's the one here, minus j minus theta n, that's plus j theta n divided by 2. The trick I did here is split this exponential from this exponential, because you know if you have exponential of something plus something, it is just multiplication of the exponentials. What am I getting? I'm getting a constant that is a complex number called alpha n from now on. Alpha n is the Fourier series coefficients for the complex exponential form. So alpha n by definition is Cn e to minus j theta n divided by 2. And I have the sum of this alpha n multiplied by this exponential. This is the form called complex exponential form. Notice that it's alpha n e to j and omega naught t. It is what I'm getting from this term, where I know that alpha n is this complex number that has this magnitude Cn over 2 and this phase shift minus theta n. You say, what about this term? Well, this one started from 1 to infinity. But this one, instead of jn, has minus jn. So let's use a change of variables. Instead of using n, let's use m here instead of n, where m is the negative of n. This will be e to jm omega naught t, and this sum will go from minus 1 to minus infinity, and that's included here. So you have a sum from minus infinity to minus 1, that's from this sum here, and then another sum that goes from 1 to infinity, which comes from here. The final thing that you need is n equals 0, which comes in from here. So alpha naught, which is the term around 0 included within this sum, is actually C naught over 2. So you can see here from our derivation that alpha n is a complex number which has a magnitude of Cn over 2 and a phase shift of minus theta n. That's why it's multiplied by e to minus j theta n. A lot of times we write the amplitude and the phase separately to make things easier for us. So the amplitude is Cn over 2 and the phase shift is minus theta n. And this works for all the positive n's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on up to infinity. It also works for n equals 0, because I told you alpha naught is C naught over 2. The angle theta naught does not exist, which means it's 0, and that's a property of the DC value. It has no phase shift. How about the values for alpha negative index, alpha minus 1, alpha minus 2, alpha minus 3, alpha minus 4? Well, you see from our derivation where we assumed a real valued signal that the difference between this alpha for the negative n and this alpha for the positive n is only in the phase shift. Instead of minus theta n here, I'm getting positive theta n. Otherwise, the amplitude is exactly the same. And that's simply a conjugate of a complex number. So if you take alpha n with that magnitude and that phase shift, and you take the conjugate, what you're getting is alpha minus n. So the amplitude of alpha minus n, say alpha minus 1, is the same as the amplitude of alpha 1, which is C1 over 2. They have the same amplitude. In conjugate, the amplitude remains the same. But if you take the phase, say alpha minus 1, it's negative minus of alpha 1, which is, by the way, minus theta n, so it is theta n. That's the phase shift for the negative index. By the way, as I told you earlier, alpha naught is C naught over 2, which is the same as A naught over 2. Because this is the DC value, this is the DC value, alpha naught is the DC value. Not alpha naught over 2, but alpha naught, because alpha naught is the same as C naught over 2. This is what we call the DC value or the average value. Alright. So I've shown you how to go from the compact form to the complex exponential form. What if you already have complex exponential form calculated? Can you go from here to the compact form and calculate Cn and theta n? Of course. If you know that the absolute value of alpha n, the magnitude of that complex number, is Cn over 2, then Cn is 2 multiplied by the absolute value of alpha n, or the magnitude of that complex number. If you know that the angle of this complex number is negative theta n, then theta n is negative of the angle of that complex number, which is, by the way, tan inverse of the imaginary part of the complex number over the real part of the complex number. I used minus here because of the minus here. Okay, what if I want to go back and forth between complex exponential form and trigonometric form? This is the complex exponential form. I have a coefficient alpha n complex multiplied by e to j n omega naught t. And this is the trigonometric form where I have an multiplied by cosine n omega naught t and bn multiplied by sine n omega naught t. Please remember that I linked the complex exponential form with the compact form. And I also linked the compact form with the trigonometric form. So I can go between the complex exponential form and the trigonometric form. Remember that the absolute value of alpha n, the magnitude of this complex number alpha n, was Cn over 2. But I already know what is Cn in terms of a trigonometric form. It's the square root of an square plus bn square. All you have to do is divide by 2. You're going to get the absolute value of alpha n. I also know that the angle of this complex number is minus theta n. So take tan inverse of bn over an, multiply by minus, you're going to get the angle of this complex number, this alpha n. By the way, those equations hopefully remind you of complex numbers in the rectangular form. So to be honest, it's easy to verify that alpha n is an over 2 because of this 2 here, an over 2 minus jbn over 2 because of this minus here. So actually alpha n, when you write it in the rectangular form, it is composed of an and bn. You just have to remember to divide by 2 here, divide by 2 here, and use this minus sign. Hence an is the real part of that complex number. Just remember to multiply by 2, and bn is the imaginary part of alpha n. Just remember to multiply by 2, and to get rid of this minus, multiply by minus as well. Those equations are so easy to derive. You should memorize them, you should remember them. They will be very useful. A lot of times we'll calculate a certain form because it's easier to calculate, and then we jump to another form using those formulas. So the values an, bn, cn, theta n, alpha n, that complex number with the magnitude and phase, are all known as the Fourier series coefficients. And when people say calculate the Fourier series for this periodic signal, what they mean is please calculate an and bn, or calculate alpha n, or find cn and theta n. They want you to write the infinite sum of sinusoidal signals, and to do that you need the magnitude and you need the phase shift. The frequency is the easy one. The frequency is the multiple of the fundamental. It's always n multiplied by omega naught, where omega naught is 2 pi over t naught. Multiply that by n, you get the frequency of the nth harmonic. The difficult part, the one you have to practice, is how do I find Cn and theta n for each harmonic? How do I find an and bn for each harmonic? Or how do I find alpha n magnitude and phase for each harmonic? This is what we're gonna practice in a later video. But for now, let me give you the equations so you memorize them, and then we'll use them in the next lecture. The equation to find alpha n for the complex exponential Fourier series format, which says x of t equals sum n minus infinity to infinity alpha n e to j n omega naught t. We know everything except this complex number alpha n. We want the magnitude and the phase. This here has the cosine, has the frequency. We can easily find the frequency. But what we want to find is the alpha n. How do you do that? Calculate this integral. This integral will give you alpha n, will give you a complex number that is the proper Fourier series coefficient. What does the integral say? 1 over the period, 1 over the fundamental period, integrate over one period. It doesn't matter where you start, just integrate over one period. Multiply your x of t by e to minus j n omega naught t dt. Please notice that I'm using minus j n omega naught, which is different than this one. This is plus j n omega naught. So here in your integral, you take the same exponential, you take the same complex exponential, but negative, and you multiply it by x of t, integrate over one period for that x of t, you're gonna get all the alpha n's you want. A lot of times our signal is real valued, signal x of t, so really don't find alpha minus 1, alpha minus 2, alpha minus 3, alpha minus 4. If you find alpha 1, it's exactly the same as alpha minus 1, but with a complex conjugate. If you find alpha 2, then alpha minus 2 is a complex conjugate. Only if your x of t is complex, which is a very special case that does not exist in real life, then you need to find the integral for all possible n's. We will not use the integral right now, but please memorize it so we can use it later on. How about the trigonometric form, where I say x of t is equal a naught over 2 plus the summation a n cosine n omega naught t plus b n sine n omega naught t? Well, it's a similar integral. Notice a n is similar integral over 1 period t naught. Start at any point you want, end up at a point after one fundamental period. You take x of t, don't multiply it by e to j, multiply it by cosine. Multiply it by cosine and omega naught t. See here cosine and omega naught t because you want a n. The slight difference between this equation and the previous one is that you have to multiply by 2 over t naught. Students remember 1 over t naught for the complex exponential, and they forget that for the trigonometric form you need 2 over t naught. A similar equation exists for bn, so you need to do another integral for bn, 2 over t naught, integrate over 1 period x of t, but this time use sine. If you want bn, use sine. If you want an, use cosine. Sine and omega naught t dt, you're gonna get all the bn values. Typically, we do the integral for general n, and then we substitute the different n's to get, for example, a0, a1, a2, a3, a4, and so on, and b1, b2, b3, b4, and so on. By the way, when we start doing examples, I'll tell you there are some tricks that you can use to simplify those integrals. For example, if your x of t is even or odd, you can use that to your advantage. If your x of t is even, don't calculate the integral for bn, because whatever integral you do, you're going to get 0 all the time. You could just memorize this. If your signal is even, just set bn's equal 0, because you don't need the signs. The signs are odd functions. They are not needed to describe even functions. On the other hand, if your x of t is odd, then you need the signs, not the cosines. So if you do the integral, you notice that an is actually equal 0. If you memorize this fact, you can save some time doing integration. By the way, if you go to our earlier 2 examples, where I showed you the concept of Fourier series, I used this fact to my advantage, and that's why I only use signs in the sum of the terms to get the repeated rect and the repeated sawtooth. I did not have to use cosines. The an's were 0. Not only that, if your x of t is even, calculating an doesn't have to be done over 1 full period. You could save time by doing the integral over half period, but you have to multiply by 4 over t naught, not 2 over t naught. Sometimes doing the integral over half a period saves time compared to doing the integral over 1 period. Same thing here. If your x of t is odd and you know an's are 0, bn's on the other hand can be calculated using integral over half period, so long as you remember multiply by 4 over t naught, not 2 over t naught, and also not, of course, 1 over t naught. Finally, the compact form. Unfortunately, we don't have direct integrals to find Cn and theta n. However, if you can find an and bn, do the integral here, use those 2 equations to calculate Cn from an and bn, and to calculate theta n from bn and an. Just find the previous integrals and then substitute in those equations. If you don't want to evaluate the trigonometric form and you evaluated the complex exponential form, fine, it's also related to the compact form. 2 multiplied by the magnitude of this complex number gives you Cn, and minus the angle of that complex number gives you theta n. So it's easy to go from the trigonometric form to the compact form, or the complex exponential form to the compact form. Let's conclude this video with a few ideas related to Fourier series. First of all, please notice that alpha naught, that's from the complex exponential form, the 0th coefficient, or C naught over 2, that's from the compact form, or A naught over 2, that's from the trigonometric form, they are all equal. They are the same value. And that value is the average value of the signal, or the DC value of the signal, or the offset of the signal, or the vertical shift of the signal. How did I know? Well, let me use the integral that I told you about that calculates alpha n. What is the integral to get alpha n? It's 1 over t naught, integrate over 1 period, x of t, e2 minus j and omega naught t dt. Now you should memorize this integral. If you want alpha naught, where alpha naught is alpha n, if you set n equals 0, just put 0 here and do the integral. What if I put 0 here? I get e to 0. What is e to 0? 1. So you get 1 over t integral over 1 period x of t dt. I've shown you this integral over 1 period divide by period when I talked about the average of the power. This is the definition of average. This 1 over t naught integral over 1 period dt is called the average. But here I'm not using power of the signal. I'm using the signal. So that's the average of the signal. The average of the signal, and that turns out to be alpha naught. Please remember, memorize that alpha naught is a special value called the DC value of the signal or the average value of the signal. You could do the same thing if you calculate A naught over 2. How do I find A naught? A naught is 2 over t naught integral over 1 period x of t cosine n omega naught t dt, where I substitute n here 0. This is the general equation to find an. Just put n equals 0, you're going to get the value. Please remember, because I divide by 2 here, I divide by 2 here. This 2 will cancel out. You get 1 over t naught integral x of t cosine 0. What is cosine 0 radians? It is 1, and you end up with the same integral for the average. It's the average of x of t, not average of x squared. It's average of x of t, which is the average value or the DC value of the signal. Why am I telling you about this special idea? Because a lot of times when you had enough practice, you can quickly find the DC by just inspecting the signal. By just looking at the signal, you can tell what is the DC, 5 volt or 10 volt or minus 2 volt. And that gives you alpha naught very quickly, or A naught over 2 very quickly. You don't have to do the integral again because you found it quickly. Another important word is orthogonal signals. Please remember that sinusoids with frequencies that are multiple of the fundamental frequency are orthogonal signals. The same thing can be said about exponentials, complex exponentials with frequencies that are multiple of the fundamental frequency. Those are called orthogonal signals. So the cosines we're adding together to get the periodic signal. The exponentials, the complex exponentials we're adding together to get the final periodic signal are actually orthogonal signals. What do I mean when I say orthogonal signals? What is the condition that makes x of t and y of t, two different signals, orthogonal to each other? Well, if you do the integral x of t, y of t dt of the multiplication of the two signals and you get 0, that's the definition of orthogonal. If this condition is satisfied, we say the two signals are orthogonal. And we know that this condition is satisfied for the cosines in my Fourier series, for the exponentials in my Fourier series. And it turns out if you're dealing with orthogonal signals, you get certain advantages. I hope you remember I told you earlier, you cannot use superposition for power unless the signals are orthogonal. So if you know your signals are orthogonal, you can do certain tricks. You can save yourself some time in calculations if you know that. I'm not going to go too much into orthogonal signals. However, since I mentioned orthogonal, let me give you two more examples. If you have a DC signal and AC signal, those are orthogonal signals. The DC and the AC. You can safely assume they are orthogonal. What else? Cosine and sine. If they have the same frequency, if this signal and this signal have the same frequency, let's say n omega naught, then those are also orthogonal. You can verify that by doing the integral. You'll see it will give you 0. Just memorize those. It's enough for this course. You'll use this idea of orthogonality hopefully in later advanced courses. One last thing. Does every periodic signal x of t have a Fourier series? Well, for a periodic signal x of t to have a Fourier series, so I can write it with infinite sum of cosines, it needs to satisfy the following three conditions. X of t has to be absolutely integrable over any period, meaning it satisfies this integral. It has to have a finite number of maxima and minima within any finite interval of time. X of t has to have a finite number of discontinuities within any finite interval of time, and each of these discontinuities must be finite. However, I don't want you to worry too much about memorizing those conditions, because in practical signals that we deal with in engineering, those conditions are already satisfied. So we know that this periodic signal can be written as Fourier series. Not only that, those conditions are sufficient conditions but are not necessary conditions for the Fourier series representation. I just wanted to tell you, in case you're wondering, do we have to have always Fourier series? Not necessarily, but for practical signals, we already satisfy those three conditions. So we are guaranteed that we have a Fourier series. And in the next video, God willing, we'll start calculating those coefficients, the alpha n's, the a n's, the b n's, the c n's. We'll start finding those coefficients for different examples. Let me stop here. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comment section, and I'll see you with practical examples in the next video. Goodbye.